Mind control over humanity. Most people on Earth live a limited life because their own ideas are limited. All those perfectly chiseled ideas, inside a neatly delimited little box, moving along a rail segmented into parts, with an immovable beginning and an immovable end. I welcome you, and I hope that today's topic invites you to think, to reflect, and to remember in your life some moments or factors that influenced your way of seeing things, in the fears that once resulted in a limitation for you and that originated in inculcated ideas, and that you remember experiences that made you learn, or see on your own, how people were not able to leave the box, or the rail. Surely, if you have been researching or listening to topics related to spirituality, extraterrestrials, conspiracy theories, and the like, at this point you know what I mean perfectly, although there are always more and more details. Always more and more to expand the subject, because it is immense to the point that it is impressive and scary to arrive and see for the first time how the whole system works, and how controlled the perception of an entire planet is, from the outside. But if it is the first time you are considering it, or you have simply come to listen driven by curiosity, and you have an open mind and willingness to see the uncomfortable side of reality, even if it goes against your current personal beliefs, then I think maybe something will awaken in you. Hopefully this is the case. It is quite possible, and even probable, that more than once and twice in your life you have felt that you had to correct and redirect a thought, because others would think that you are crazy, that you do not keep up with society, that it is too fanciful, that it does not make sense, or, simply, that no one would understand your crazy theories or your crazy and fanciful way of looking at life. I go further, you probably thought that you had to adapt to society, to how things and people work, relationships, ways of acting, even when you clearly saw that it didn't make sense to do or think those things. You did not see it as healthy, coherent, natural, ethical, or logical. However, and in spite of the great conviction, security, or willpower of each one of us, I am sure that you have surprised yourself more than once doing or saying things with which you did not agree at all. Maybe, afterwards, you may have asked yourself, why did I say that? Why did I do that? Is this really necessary to fit in or move on? While it is totally understandable and in our nature to desire affection, respect and acceptance in the people in our lives, first of all I will remind you of something that, as Jiddu Krishnamurti said, and some of my colleagues also said, it is not a symptom of health to be well adjusted to a profoundly sick society. That is, at the same time, the fact that many act or think in a certain way, does not make those actions or thoughts right, healthy, ethical, and what follows. Because we could start by saying that everything in this world you live in, is perception. Perceptions seemingly completely opposite, are in reality nothing more than different corners of the same room. Ways of understanding the world, and life. Complementary information to each other, to understand a little more of the whole framework you call reality. The problem here comes in when a person or group of people, larger or smaller, uses the imposition of a perception, or set of perceptions, on another person or group. This, with the purpose of taking advantage of what those people will generate based on those ideas, keeping them within a small limited world, in which they will only be able to see a corner of the room. A small portion of the puzzle. Moreover, an ethical problem is generated when that small world of limited ideas is based not only on a few imposed, immovable and indisputable truths, and not only in hiding, censoring or punishing those ideas that are different from those that should define today's planetary society. The problem is much greater when many of these ideas or perceptions are based on things that, from an objective and more expanded level, are not true. And while it is true that what defines reality or truth for each individual is something personal, and a universe in itself that must always be respected, I am sure we would agree that such a universe must be created from the free will of each person, with all the information at their fingertips, and with no one guiding anyone's perception towards their own interests through manipulation, censorship, or shenanigans. I will raise a thought that you may not have pondered until now. Or maybe you have. Surely you are well aware of how human society has been changing its values, its ideas, its beliefs and convictions, over time. Even in just half a lifetime, you will have witnessed how many of these things have changed, and you will have heard 100 times that society evolves and progresses, and that you have to adapt to these changes, or else you become obsolete. But I wonder. Answer honestly. Would you say that it has been the people themselves who have moved towards those new ideas? Or have you seen little big advertising campaigns, political movements and situations repeatedly implemented in movies, series and many more? Even seeing how people often did not agree with it, but it continued to be imposed until it became part of normality. Aren't the authorities themselves the ones who impose that the correct thinking, the correct values are specific ones? Don't they persecute and punish, or ridicule, everything that goes against what they promote? I quote Athena Swaru. Never confuse the legal with the just on earth, because they are totally different things. The legal and the laws are there to defend the interests of corporations, not of individual persons. End of quote. For some reason, many people there defend the legal by assuming without questioning it that if it is legal, it means it is a good or ethical thing. I will give an example that you will understand very quickly. Recall what happened recently with that worldwide problem that I can't mention here. The one that involved putting something in the mouth in a compulsory way. Many of you may have seen, for example, how you were looked down upon or even received disrespectful words, just for the simple fact of entering a place without that thing you had to wear in your mouth, or even for wearing it under your nose. This, being that in a few days, maybe a week, the obligation to wear it in closed places would end. A few days later, when that obligation ended, nobody looked at them badly for that anymore. So, what were they really worried about? The health problem, or that you would comply with the rules? This is the level of mind control exercised over the terrestrial population, where everything official, everything provided by the mass media, is what is real and unquestionable. And anyone who goes outside the program is in one way or another attacked, ridiculed or, at best, simply marginalized. Even speaking of governments, whose tendency to lie, steal and manipulate is known worldwide, people there tend to magically forget this very thing and trust that they would never be able to deceive the population like this. But to those people I ask, by what argument? If you are aware that they don't care about people, if you are aware that they lie, hide, steal, censor, manipulate, control and dissemble, what exactly makes you think that it is impossible for them to control people's perception at will towards what suits them? With this latest health problem, the uniform discourse around the world could also be seen very clearly. A planetary advertising campaign with identical arguments that they repeated over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. You could even listen to some of their innocent and angelic politicians, talking directly about inserting thoughts and feelings in the minds of their people, as is the case of the former president of a Spanish-speaking country that I will not mention for security, but I am sure many will know who I am talking about. You have heard the great so-called philanthropists of this world talk directly about consciously reducing the population, and it is still not enough to turn on the light bulb that makes you think, this is not normal, is it? They have seen those who went against that manipulation disappear. They have seen people around them and also famous people fall, for similar serious conditions that should not be normal in people of their condition, after receiving what they wanted to impose on the whole world. Let's say, after receiving the intrusion. And yet, with these and thousands of other things, they continued to choose to believe that the world was the world they wanted it to be, the world they are told exists, but not the one they are seeing with their own eyes. So much so, that they recently began to admit the existence of extraterrestrial life through their long-awaited official channels or means, and there was never much of a reaction. Most of these people are not able to connect the dots and start asking questions. If extraterrestrial life exists, why have they hidden it until now? By what right would they hide or censor that information? And these people who have decided to reveal it after so many years, why now and not before? And if they are out there, then why were they not seen in those videos that were shared to the population supposedly from space? And, having so many people involved from different sectors and all over the world, what would that mean? What is the dimension or scale of this? Please ask yourself questions. And don't leave them unanswered. Put 2 and 2 together. Also, some of us here have noticed a strange and disconcerting tendency to ask a certain question when hearing someone question these things. Sometimes talking about things that have absolutely nothing to do with the subject. And that is that when someone suddenly talks about extraterrestrials, or about natural medicine, about scientific studies that differ from the widely disseminated ones, or about the possibility that people in power are guiding perception to their convenience, the following question automatically appears. Are you in a cult? This question, without trying to offend anyone, is sometimes even funny to us, as we do not see the relation whatsoever between one thing and the other. It seems like some kind of programmed, automatic response to be triggered with such topics. And it also has an ironic part, being that the person who asks the question is actually the one who acts in a sectarian way. And it is humanity in general, according to my point of view, which is part of a great planetary sect, with its unquestionable leaders, in which if you deviate or leave that sect, they will try by all means to make you feel bad, crazy, sick or reckless. I am sure some will recognize this way of proceeding well. Perhaps I am getting into highly swampy ground and that could upset many, but I would also like to sow one last question regarding this. Those religions that so many follow, with their paintings, rituals, and prayers, what makes them different from any other belief system, and why are those not considered cults? When some people step out of the general perception, does that make them a cult? I use these examples as some of the clearest ones to expose a clear tendency to not wanting to see the truth, and the fear of leaving the comfort of popular ignorance in which everyone takes refuge and supports each other. But you should know that these are not reproaches, nor is it a scolding, nor is it a complaint. It is the best way I can find to try to open your eyes, to wake you up. That you have the courage to think as you think. Have the courage to speak up even if you know that the majority will not agree. It is very scary, and produces many confrontations and headaches. But you will end up sowing in others the seed that was awakened within you. And what a single person can change in the world is absolutely everything. Especially in your own life and your own story. You don't have to do it for others. Do it for you. Be true to yourself and have the courage to say without fear what you see clearly. May you never be deceived again. A big hug for you. Za'el of Error.